I like my big truck. I like to ride around. I like it to be big. It make me feel like I'm riding a fancy steed, a Clydesdale. And I'm the biggest knight in the land, riding in the kingdom. Caesar, it's my sword for you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Exploring the House Flipper to Hell's Angels pipeline. What I want to know is when Trump's going to appoint Paula Deen and time for some butter in his cabinet. Paula what? No. Paula Deen. And finish off this Congress with a nice pecan pie. Make things a little smoother with that butter. Gotta put that butter in there, girls. The year is 2028. You unplug your crock pot full of sauce that'll make you shit fire for 2 days. You take it to your husband in the living room who's screaming like children with his friends. Your children are also screaming maliciously. He doesn't thank you because his team is losing. You know the money he gambled away on the game could have gone to fixing the roof. Let's hope not. Say it with me, fellas. I want my wife to smell sweet things, feel soft things, experience love, appreciation, and novelty. I want her to live without unnecessary fear, anger, or sorrow. I want her to decorate our nest with things that she loves and hear her laughing children daily. Say that as many times as you need because that's what you need. That's what you need to aim for. Don't need to aim for the moon. That's all you need to be happy. That's all you need in your life. It's ironic. Little neo-Nazis propagating anti-women, just women hate, you know what I'm saying? And just like, you've seen it. We've all seen it online. Just across the board. And here's the interesting thing. I respect the hell out of Noel for taking a stand against that on Kiwi Farms, because he knows when he was a child where that behavior ends up leading. And it's terrifying. And it's mostly propagated by far-right. But you see it on the far left, too. You just see blanket women hate on the far left too. And that ends up playing right into the hands of majorly Jewish pornographers, you see. Since most of the people who own the pornographic websites are Jewish, and it's propagated around Hollywood the most. It's ironic. But as I've gone into detail before, the neo-Nazis that are allowed to be neo-Nazis are actually propped up by Mossad. And we found this out with Yair Netanyahu's allegiances and seeing neo-Nazis taking sabbaticals to Israel. And, it was always kind of suspicious where they get their funding because you can never audit these nationalist groups, right? Because they're not a nationalist group. They don't care about what their neighbors think. They just care about... It's like any gang, it's the first people to accept them as the losers that they are and not push them to be better. And then it all funnels up to the people on the top who are making political decisions. And El Chapo's son himself said, it's not about drugs. It's about violence. It's about terrorism. It's about making sure politics stays in line, you see. And that makes a lot of sense when you see the Bolivian to Colombia to inner city, cocaine to crack route drying up. You really see it drying up, and so they just focus entirely on violence. Also, you should claim the entire state of Israel as a dependent on your taxes. Don't actually do that, but yeah, for real. There are so many Israeli hostages that have criticized Israel and the IDF and explained in detail how they let it happen despite tons of warnings. One person starved during a war with food blockades placed on the entire area is the only thing that has gotten mainstream media airtime. Kind of coincidental, don't you think? Or is it? I'll let you decide. Isn't it great when you have experts making up terms and conditions for everybody else? But, you see this a lot in psychology. But. On the flip side, I love Dante Alighieri because he beautifully paints hierarchies of sin. For instance, people will forgive you for lust and gluttony, very easily. They'll even forgive you for greed and anger. But violence steps over. Fraud and treachery. Those are deeper down. They're deeper down in there, you feel me? It's harder to forgive that. If it's harder for people to forgive that, naturally you understand that instinct comes from the creator of people. It's harder for people to forgive themselves for that. It's harder for God to forgive you without a contrite heart for that. The countdown has started, by the way. Only a matter of time till we have a president with a gum road. Oh, sweep away this Gen X bullshit. You know, OG Deadpool was peak schizo representation. Loved it. New shit, smug representation, and it's all Ryan Reynolds' fault. And that's everything that Gen X seems to want to be. It's a bunch of smug, useless idiots. Working on not cussing. It's not necessary to cuss. It's not necessary to say these crutch words. And in fact, the more you can use the English language, the less of a dumb language it is. It's got a high ceiling potential. And you don't need to be carrying 20% of your words as or any variety of curse words. You don't. It's weak. It's easily combated with a little bit of exercise and a little bit of willpower. I actually feel kind of bad for Pantsuit Party, if anybody knows about her. I've been screaming she's a cringe pedo for years online, but after the Ralph chapter, I can kind of see how it was all Digibro's fault. And she's suffered. And you hate to see women suffer. You hate to see women being abused. You hate to see women... Like, the worst abuse took place in California with Digibro. That's the worst abuse. It was 10 times worse than what Ralph did. Genuinely. Not joking. Like, to turn a woman into a Ghislaine Maxwell wannabe is more abusive than, like, literally hitting her, I'd say. And that's not encouraging. I'm just saying there's a hierarchy, and, like, one is just, like, damning, and it becomes your fault. The other one, it isn't your fault. It's his fault. Or her fault if you're, like, in 50% of lesbian relationships. Still more natural than homosexual males, but 50% domestic violence rate. 50%. 1 for 2. And I've seen it. I've literally seen it with my own eyes. Had a roommate who lived with lesbians, and one of them just walked out one day. He's like, "Why is my pussy bleeding?" And she's like, "Shut up. Fine." Okay. Gross. Don't be so down bad that you're, like, staring at that. Oh my god. There was some guys that were down bad at that apartment, man. Not me. Couldn't be me. Never was me. Couldn't be me. Here's some hair tips for everybody. Regardless of the length or type, address your skull in the 4 directions that it faces. It's, you know, respect your crown, kings, queens. Don't be afraid to have some hair fall out while you exercise, while you're brushing it, while you're washing it. Naturally, clumps falling out, excess hair, that's usually caused by stress, and you don't also want to, like, pull it. You know, you want to make sure that you're not feeling, like, massive amounts of pulling. If you do feel pulling on your scalp, you need to, like, grab the hair at a different part and then get that knot out without pulling out a big chunk of your hair, like wax. You don't want to do that. But if you do things right, you'll have more than enough hair. You don't want to have just, like... You have more than enough hair to show off your plumage like you were a bird. And people tend to, you can literally look at Pete Hegseth and tell that he did this constantly until he had, like, the worst widow's peak ever. They're brushing the front back against the grain. Don't do that. You gotta let it fall if you want to have bangs. Otherwise, you just gotta trim your bangs up. What I used to do when I was younger is I would make sure to distribute the oil through my hair while doing it only in a certain way, and then it'd have this big poof to the side. It was pretty all right. You know, I miss scene fashion. Scene fashion was peak 90s. Actually, that's more of 2000s. But yeah, I miss scene fashion. Emo fashion's gross. Nasty. Bunch of piercings and like a bunch of white makeup. Ew. Yuck. Scene fashion, on the other hand, that's fun. That's funny and fun. Putting neon streaks through your hair? Are you joking? That's funny. That's funny in a fun way. I love it when I open a pack of something and it spills out everywhere because some asshole thought it would make the company more money. Now that's what I call innovation. You've seen it. You've had it happen to you. Oh well, at least it encourages people to start, you know, processing their stuff out into more viable containers. It is a good encouragement there, but it isn't something that you should expect from like a legacy product like Band-Aids. Like I can't open up the package without it exploding. Because, you know, it was designed that way because somebody thought that would increase the bottom line by making more purchases. And you see this all over the place, but the worst is planned obsolescence, when they make just like a tiny portion of the thing that you're buying, the product that you're buying, easily breakable, and it breaks very, very quickly and very, very easily. And the rest of it's perfectly fine, but if you don't know how to crack it open and void the warranty, then it's junk that you have to send back and get like most of their money back, and then they resell it. Junk. It's a junk way of doing business. So, go a little bit of Nate history. There is times in my life where I've been on death's door. On death's door multiple times for a period of time. And I was nursed back to health with the nourishing waters of life. For years after, I asked for nothing, and I gave everything back, and I felt like I owed this area a tremendous amount. And I feel like I've given back a tremendous amount to this area that has sheltered me and protected me and kept me safe and away from gang activity for a period of time. But the way things have going, I've seen so many people move out. So many good people move out, die. I've known old people around this area that just died because it got so chaotic and so evil. And if you have 0.2% of the population convince 10% of the population, including the police, or at least the police chief, to hurt 60 to 80% of the population, it doesn't matter if that 0.2% of the population gets more money. Your nation is being destroyed, and you don't understand economics if you think that's a good thing. So people have been saying if you support socialism, you don't understand economics. It's an interesting concept because international socialism naturally is taking your resources and distributing it out to whatever evil empire has cooed your particular democratic process. And a nationalist-based socialism tends to get attacked very severely because it is one of the best things for the economy, for the people. That's the argument there. But then you have extreme capitalism, and capitalism and socialism are just two bifurcations of modernity as things go down the wrong route after industrialization, after colonialization, colonialism that started all of this. And it can be working for the people, or it could be working for a scant few while destroying a mass majority of the people and then convincing a portion of the gullible, easily hypnotized population that those human beings that are going homeless because they can't find a job, that are going homeless because they have all sorts of very myriad medical issues and mental health issues, but mostly started by medical issues. Can't afford to eat, can't afford to have a house. And for what? So you can have these tiny oases of wealth around burning chaos? Tell me how that is good for your nation. Tell me how that is good for your economy. It's not. You're missing so much wealth. You're missing so much potential. You're missing so much joy in life when you think that that's okay. So it's good to not let the 25% of the population that's easily hypnotized either fall into the camp of warriors against peace or accept that as a viable, accept a war on peace, a war on unity inside of one country. to be viable just because it makes some people tremendously profitable, and then they put that back into the mainstream media, and then that propagates down with pennies on the dollar, propagating down into various groups where people take it up and then spit it back out like they never left school. You know, when I dipped down to the very bottom, I found true strength, I found true passion, and I've been climbing up ever since. So I can tell you, to have it all, that's not where it comes from. Now, being a loser, you'd be surprised how that rags to riches works out. You know, it's night and day when people genuinely love their family, or when they're just fishing for inheritance. You can see it. You can see it pretty easily. Very prodigal son of me, but you can smell it on them when they're entitled. And that's the purpose of it. Don't be afraid to suffer. Don't be a waste of potential, but don't be afraid to suffer. Don't be afraid of your economy getting a little bit worse because the long-term investments that we're making are bringing it back inward, bringing it back home. Don't be afraid of that. I am a little afraid of what the mining will entail when it comes to the destruction of our own, what's above, where the resources are, you see, the general area, all these things that can't be replaced. But I also have tremendous faith, and I know for a fact it's going to happen either way. Regardless, it's going to happen. So have faith, and have hope, and have charity. Those are the three theological principles, and they're very present in all different religions. Faith, hope, and charity. And never give up hope in your soul. And never give up faith that intermediates between your soul and the world. And never give up the charity that prevents you from becoming captured by the world, you see. But also know, when you're being taken for a ride, don't just dump your money on some scheme, you see. Getting a little lump sum, if that, for your long-term potential. I've literally seen people throw away valuable things, in the metaphorical sense, for nothing. I've seen people be paid pennies in order to turn on principles that would have given them sokar and lukar for the rest of their lives. It's sad. You hate to see it, folks. Oh well. Good episode for today. A little short, but that's alright. Hope everybody has a good one. Cheers.